In a quiet suburb just outside Melbourne, where the mornings are cool and the magpies sing like they own the place, there was an old bloke who sat at the same bus stop every single day. No one really noticed him, and honestly, that suited him just fine. But one ordinary morning, something very small happened, and it quietly changed his life forever. Pause 2 sec. Let me tell you his story. In a quiet suburb, just on the edge of Melbourne, where the streets wake up slowly and the air still feels clean. In the early morning, there lived an old man that most people walked past without a second glance. His name was Arthur Collins. Arthur was 72 years old, though his body often felt much older than that. His back was slightly bent from years of hard work, and his hands, large, rough and cracked, told the story of a life spent building things for other people. He had been a carpenter for more than 40 years. Good at it too. Fair dinkum good. He built kitchens, doors, wooden staircases, and even a few homes that were still standing strong long after his knees gave up on him. But now, Arthur was retired, and retired didn't feel the way he thought it would. Every morning, without fail, Arthur followed the same routine. He woke up just before 6 o'clock, not because he needed to, but because his body didn't remember how to sleep in anymore. The house was always quiet, too quiet. The kettle would be the first sound of the day, its gentle whistle filling the empty kitchen. Arthur would stand there for a moment, staring at the second mug on the shelf. He never used it. Still, he never moved it either. "Morning, Margie," he'd whisper softly, like she could still hear him. After his tea, Arthur put on his old brown jacket. The jacket had faded over the years. One pocket was slightly torn, and the buttons didn't quite match. But Arthur liked it. Margaret had bought it for him years ago, back when life felt full and noisy and busy. He grabbed his wooden cane, smooth from years of use, locked the door behind him, and stepped outside. At exactly 7:10 a.m., Arthur arrived at the bus stop. Same bench, same spot. The metal bench was cold, even in summer. Arthur lowered himself down slowly, letting out a quiet breath as he sat. He wasn't waiting for the bus. Not really. He was waiting for the world to pass by, and pass by it did. Young people rushed past with their headphones in, faces glued to their phones. Arthur sometimes wondered what they were listening to. Music? News? Someone telling them how to live better. Parents hurried by with school bags and tired eyes. Kids complaining about homework and early mornings. Office workers stood nearby, checking the time every few seconds, like the bus being late was a personal insult. Arthur watched them all, and sometimes a small smile would appear on his face. Everyone's in such a hurry, he'd think, and they don't even know why. Every now and then, he'd mutter quietly under his breath, "No worries, mate. Life'll slow you down eventually." Then he'd chuckle to himself, a soft, tired laugh that no one else noticed. Arthur had been sitting on that bench for almost 3 years now, ever since Margaret passed away. The doctors called it natural causes. Arthur called it loneliness that came too late to fix. He came to the bus stop because the house felt heavy, like the walls were listening, like every corner remembered her. Here, at least, life kept moving. Even if he didn't, sometimes strangers would sit beside him. Most didn't say a word. A few nodded politely. None ever stayed long. Arthur never minded. Still, there were moments when he looked at the empty space beside him and felt something tighten in his chest. Funny thing, life, he thought. You spend years wanting peace and quiet, and then one day, you'd give anything just to hear someone breathe next to you. He adjusted his jacket, rested both hands on his cane, and watched the road ahead. The bus would come, the bus would go, Arthur would stay. And he had no idea that very soon, on a morning that looked just like any other, someone would finally sit down beside him and change everything. Pause 3 seconds. The cuppa moment. The morning air was colder than usual, the kind of cold that gently creeps into your bones, reminding you that summer doesn't last forever. Just like most things in life, Arthur adjusted his brown jacket and reached into his old canvas bag. His fingers wrapped around a small, slightly dented thermos flask. He smiled. That thermos had been with him for years. Camping trips, long drives, Early mornings when work started before sunrise. And now, quiet bus stops. Arthur unscrewed the lid slowly, careful not to spill a drop. Steam rose into the air. Tea. Not fancy, not expensive, just strong black tea. The way Margaret always made it. Arthur took a small sip, and for a moment, he wasn't sitting at a bus stop anymore. He was back in their old kitchen. Margaret standing by the stove, hair tied back, humming softly to herself. "You'll burn your tongue one day," she used to say. Arthur chuckled quietly at the memory. "Worth it," he whispered. But when the warmth faded, reality settled back in. The bench beside him was empty. As always, Arthur looked at that empty space longer than usual. His smile faded. "Fair dinkum, Margie," he murmured. "You always said I wouldn't handle being alone very well." He sighed and stared down the road. That was when he noticed her, a woman standing a few steps away from the bus stop. She looked tired. Not just didn't sleep well tired, but the kind of tired that settles deep in the eyes. She was holding a small baby wrapped in a blanket. The baby was crying softly, not loudly, just enough to tell the world, "I'm here and I need something." Arthur watched her shift her weight from one foot to the other, rocking gently. Her eyes scanned the road, then the time on her phone. She took a deep breath. Then another. Arthur hesitated. He wasn't the kind of man who spoke to strangers anymore. He used to be, once, but life had a way of shrinking your world, without you noticing. Still, something tugged at him. Maybe it was the crying baby. Maybe it was the loneliness in her eyes. That felt familiar. Arthur cleared his throat softly. "Cold morning, eh?" The woman flinched slightly, then turned. She looked surprised. "Oh, yeah, it is." Her voice sounded worn out, like she'd already lived an entire day. Before the sun was fully up, Arthur nodded. "Melbourne mornings can be a bit cruel," he said gently. "They don't ease you into the day." She gave a small, tired smile. The baby whimpered again. Arthur glanced at his thermos, then back at her. His heart beat just a little faster. "I've got some tea," he said, lifting the thermos slightly. "Still hot. Fancy a cuppa?" She blinked. Once, twice. Then she laughed. A short, surprised laugh. "You know what?" she said. "That actually sounds amazing." Arthur shifted on the bench. "Please," he added quickly. "Plenty to go around." She stepped closer and sat down carefully, keeping the baby snug in her arms. Arthur poured the tea into the lid of the thermos and handed it to her with steady hands. She wrapped her fingers around it. Her shoulders relaxed instantly. "Oh, wow," she sighed. "I didn't realize how much I needed this." Arthur smiled. "Tea's good like that," he said. "Doesn't solve much, but it makes things feel manageable." She nodded slowly. "I'm Emily," she said after a moment. "And thank you." "Really?" "Arthur," he replied. "No worries, mate." They sat in comfortable silence for a bit. The baby calmed down. The road hummed quietly. Arthur realized something strange. For the first time in years, the empty space beside him didn't feel empty anymore. Emily glanced at Arthur. "You come here every morning?" she asked. Arthur nodded. "Yeah, same time. Same bench." She smiled. "That's kinda nice." Arthur chuckled softly. "Depends how you look at it." She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Sometimes silence says enough. Arthur took another sip of his tea, his eyes softening. He had no idea that this simple offer, a shared cuppa on a cold morning, was the beginning of something new, something neither of them had been looking for, something both of them needed. Pause 3 seconds. Regrets of the past. The tea slowly cooled in Emily's hands, but the warmth it left behind stayed with her. She shifted the baby gently, making sure the little blanket was tucked in just right. Arthur noticed how careful she was, how every small movement carried responsibility. After a long pause, Emily spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "Can I ask you something, Arthur?" He nodded. "Course you can." She looked straight ahead at the empty road, not at him. "Do you ever think about the things you should have done differently? The things you didn't say, or didn't do, when you had the chance?" Arthur didn't answer right away. He stared at the ground near his boots. where fallen leaves gathered in small piles. The question landed heavy, too familiar. Every day, he finally said. Some days more than others. Emily glanced at him, surprised by how quickly he answered. Arthur took a slow breath. When you get to my age, he continued, you realize something funny. The mistakes you remember most aren't the big dramatic ones. They're the quiet ones. Emily listened closely. The baby slept. The world felt still. Arthur leaned back slightly on the bench. I worked too much, he said simply. No excuses, no bitterness, just truth. I told myself it was for the family, for the future, and maybe some of it was. But a lot of it, he paused. A lot of it was fear. Emily frowned gently. Fear of what? Arthur smiled sadly. Fear of not being enough. He looked up at the sky. Margaret wanted time, he said. I kept giving her plans. Emily swallowed. Arthur continued. She'd ask me to sit with her in the evenings. I'd say just one more thing, love. One more job. One more project. And somehow, his voice dropped. One more year went by. Arthur rubbed his hands together, as if warming them against a memory. When she got sick, he said softly, I thought we still had time. Turns out, time had already made up its mind. Emily's eyes filled. She didn't interrupt. Arthur appreciated that. You know what the worst part is? He said quietly. Emily shook her head. I can't remember her voice clearly anymore. He let out a slow breath. I remember her smile, her laugh. But her voice? It's fading. Emily wiped her cheek quickly. I'm so sorry. Arthur nodded. Me too. They sat there for a moment, the weight of unspoken things settling between them. Then Emily surprised herself by speaking. I'm scared I'm doing the same thing, she admitted. Arthur turned to her. How so? She looked down at her sleeping baby. I'm always tired, always worried, always thinking about what comes next. Her voice trembled. I forget to just be there. Arthur watched her carefully. Then he smiled. Not sadly this time, gently. You're already ahead, he said. Emily looked confused. Because you're asking the question now, Arthur explained. Most people don't. They wait until it's too late. Then they sit on cold benches like me, wishing they'd paid attention. Emily let out a small, shaky laugh. Is that what you're doing here? She asked. Paying attention now? Arthur chuckled. Trying to. He tapped his cane lightly against the ground. Life doesn't give many second chances, he said. But when it does, you don't ignore them. Emily nodded slowly. She held her baby a little closer. Arthur looked down the road again. The bus was late. For once, he didn't mind, because something important had arrived already. Something honest, something human. And in that quiet moment, between regret and hope, Arthur realized something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not sadness, not loneliness, but connection. Paused 3 seconds, then stopped. Turned back, sat down again. Not just yet, he murmured. I'll stay a bit longer. And so he did, as cars passed, as the sun rose higher. As the morning warmed, Arthur stayed, because for the first time in years, the bus didn't matter. What mattered was that someone had seen him. He wasn't invisible anymore. Paused 3 seconds. A new routine. The next morning, Arthur woke up before his alarm. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. For a moment, he lay still in bed, listening to the quiet house. The silence was still there, but it felt different now. Lighter. Arthur sat up slowly and swung his legs over the side of the bed. All right, he murmured. Let's give today a fair go. In the kitchen, he filled the kettle and turned it on. As the water heated, Arthur reached for the shelf. He stopped, then smiled. He took down 2 cups this time, one for him, one just in case. He poured the tea carefully, the steam curling gently upward. For a brief second, he thought of Margaret, not with pain, but with gratitude. You'd like this, he said softly. I reckon you would. At 7:05 a.m., Arthur arrived at the bus stop, earlier than usual. The bench was empty, the road quiet. Arthur sat down and placed the thermos between the 2 cups. He waited. A few minutes passed. Then he saw her, Emily, walking toward the bus stop, baby snug against her chest. Arthur's face lit up. She noticed him too and smiled wide. "You're early," she said. Arthur chuckled. "Didn't want to miss you." She sat down beside him. The baby gurgled softly. Arthur poured the tea. They talked, not about regrets this time, about small things. The weather, the neighborhood, how fast children grow. Emily laughed more today, Arthur noticed, and it did something good to him. The next day, Arthur came again. 2 cups, same bench. And the day after that, soon something unexpected happened. Another person sat down, a middle-aged man waiting for work. Then an elderly woman with a shopping trolley. Then a teenager who looked like he didn't belong anywhere. Arthur always offered tea, always listened, never rushed anyone. Before long, people started recognizing him. "Morning, Arthur. Got room for one more? Is the tea on today?" Arthur would smile and say, "Course, mate." Pull up a seat. The bus stop changed, not because of the bench, not because of the buses, but because people felt welcome there. Arthur became known as that old bloke with the good tea. But the truth was, it wasn't the tea. It was the way he listened, the way he looked at people, like they mattered. Because now, he knew they did. One morning, Emily didn't come. Arthur waited. The next day she returned. She sat down and smiled. "Sorry I missed yesterday," she said. "Life got busy." Arthur nodded. "It does." She hesitated. "But I thought about what you said." Arthur raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah?" "Yeah," she replied, "about being present." She looked down at her baby. "I'm trying." Arthur smiled. "That's all anyone can do." As weeks passed, Arthur realized something important. He still never took the bus, but he no longer came to escape his house. He came to connect, to share, to belong. One quiet morning, Arthur arrived at the bus stop and sat down alone. No cups today, just him. The sun rose slowly. Birds sang. Arthur closed his eyes for a moment, and he smiled, because even in the quiet, he wasn't lonely anymore. Life lesson. Life doesn't always change in big moments. Sometimes it changes with a cup of tea, a kind word, a shared bench, a moment of attention. You're never too old to matter, never too late to connect. And sometimes the bus you're waiting for was never the one you needed. Long pause, 4 seconds. "No worries, mate. Take care of each other."